everyone, welcome to me,
you,
and Doctor Who. Intro still subject to change. We still haven't figured it out. Okay, but hello.
Hi.
Welcome to our first episode of the first.
Oh no, the accent's infecting
The
you already.
British are coming for me already. The first official episode of our Doctor Who podcast. This is going to be the first time Hailey will be watching Doctor Who from the beginning, as God intended, as Russell T Davies intended. And this will be the first time I've seen basically season 1 of Doctor Who in years. I haven't seen the 9th Doctor in what feels like forever. So normally I think what we plan for the intro is that at the end of Doctor Who episodes there'll usually be like a next time on Doctor Who bumper or whatever, and I think we're planning on for intros of the episodes to be speculating on what we're expecting of the episode or what I remember from said episode. But this being season 1, episode 1, we can't really do that. But that's okay. We're going to talk about I guess we're not going to talk about much. I'm going to talk about how much I know about the episode, which is not much. I've got a horrible memory, but I do remember this episode was, I enjoyed the plot of it. I do remember the villains being, I think, a bit silly. My strongest memory I associate with this episode is actually when I was first being introduced to Doctor Who. I had this friend when I was in middle school who I was friends with in elementary school. And I was like, oh my god, you gotta watch Doctor Who. This is a really good show. I love it so much. And she was like, okay. And then she went home to go watch it. Like in the next week, I came back and she was like, yeah, I watched it. I was like, you did? You really? Did you love it? Love it so much, and we could talk about it. And she was like, I thought it was kind of weird.
Aww.
And I don't blame her, because as you'll see, we're gonna be dealing with, as we go along through season 1, we're probably gonna be dealing with a lot of, I'll admit it, goofy special effects. Doctor Who, I think a part of the charm of Doctor Who is it's a bit campy with its...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, with its special effects, and I mean, it's 2005, they did what they could. I think maybe I could talk about, like, who's writing the episode, like, when this episode came out. I have, like, the wiki open. So I know that, so the setting of this episode takes place in March 2005. That's the in-universe date. And then the premiere broadcast was the 26th of March in 2005.
Okay.
So almost a whole decade ago, which is crazy. We're like 1 year.
Well, 2 decades ago.
Yep. Oh my god! Oh no! That's true! Oh my god!
Yeah, almost 20 years ago.
Oh no, you can't say that. I don't know why. Last night when I was researching this episode, I was like, oh wow, almost 10 years ago. That's crazy. Nope. This episode came
worse.
Nope, it's just worse. Okay, almost 20 years ago this episode came out. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, when this episode came out, I was actually a little kid. I think I wasn't even in elementary school yet.
I was also a little kid. I was a slightly less little kid.
Yeah, you were by 1 year almost exactly. You were slightly less little. Okay, so it says the key crew in the wiki. So the writer for this episode is Russell T Davies, who is the showrunner for, if I remember correctly, the first 4 seasons of the show, so I guess it's understandable that he would want to write the titular first episode. It is going to be directed by Keith Boak, I don't know, Keith Boak. I've not heard of his name, but, you know, maybe we'll see him more in the future. I kind of want to, like, keep track of, like, who's written the episodes and, like, who's directed them, so maybe, like, if there's episodes we like, we'd be like, oh, missed you. Or, like, with writers, we could do that same thing. We could become parasocial with them.
Yeah, we could do the opposite and be like, boo! Or boo! And throw vegetables like we're at a Shakespeare play. And
tomato! Off the stage with you!
Years ago, I said.
So I mean, as far as intros go, I think that's all I really have to say about the episode right now. I think the structure of this podcast episode is basically going to be we're gonna do the introduction. We're gonna have a pause break where we actually go and watch the episode. We're planning on recording like our commentary of the episode and like putting it on Patreon. I think just as like bonus content. Uh, Either way, we're still going to be talking about our reactions in the meat of the episode, which is what we're going to do after, I guess, the break. There's going to be like a brief pause. I don't know if we're going to put like, I don't know, a mid-roll break or something. I don't want to, but we'll see. Beginning of podcast problems. Uh, and then we're going to talk about like our reactions to the episode, and then after that, I'm going to try to bring up some trivia on the episode that I found on IMDb, and I don't know, maybe speculate on what happened in later seasons if Hailey has any interesting thoughts.
I'm sure I will. All my thoughts are interesting.
Of course, that's why I have you as my co-host.
That's right, I'm very special.
But I think other than that, unless you have anything you'd like to add, Hailey.
Well, I mean, I know a lot about this episode going in. I know that.
Of course.
The Ninth Doctor's there, and Rose is there. I assume that's her name.
Yeah, I can only assume it's the title of the episode.
I'm guessing there will be British people. I'm guessing there will be bad effects. I was telling Julia how right before we started this, I was watching a Monster High movie from 2012, and I'm expecting similar levels of camp and animation. Probably same studio.
If there's British people on my screen when we open this episode, I'm gonna scream bloody murder in my apartment.
Honestly, far scarier. I'm surprised that they didn't have like a British student at Monster High whose whole thing was just they're a British person, because that's basically a monster.
They're basically monsters. I'm so
thing.
I'm so sorry, kind of British people, but it is a little fun to make fun of you.
There's normies and then there's the British.
The Brits. All right, it's all in good fun. Good show. Okay, so we'll be right back. We're gonna go watch the episode, and we're gonna have a jolly good time.
That's right. What a bottle!
What a bottle! Jolly good show, good boy, you all.
Trigger warnings for this episode include fictional character death and mannequin imagery.
Hello, welcome back.
Hey, we just got done watching the episode.
We got done watching it. We took a little break to stretch our legs, drink some water, but we finished the first episode, Rose. Bailey, I'm very curious. Like, we'll go through like the plot of the episode, but like, how do you feel? How do you feel? First episode of Doctor Who.
I liked it. It was fun. I'm very curious to see where it goes. I like the characters. I'd say the characters are probably what I like the most out of everything so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a good cast of characters so far. It's I believe we have Rose, Mickey, Jackie, and the Doctor. Jackie was not named in this episode, but her name's Jackie Tyler, mother of Rose Tyler, and Rose Tyler has a boyfriend named Mickey. His last name wasn't mentioned, but his last name is Mickey Smith. I don't think that's spoilers to be like, his last name is Smith.
How could you?
That'd be. I don't. There is like something about he does have a backstory, I guess, but I don't think his last name being Smith is like any sort of spoiler for that. Okay, well this I think we already talked about who wrote this episode, Russell T Davies. We can like go through the episode and like see how we feel. Basically it starts off as just Rose as it's a typical 2000s girly. This episode was so 2000s.
This was off to a much more 2000s start than I was anticipating.
Like the hair, the jewelry, the makeup, the outfits, the room. It was so, oh my goodness. It's
lesbian flag color palette room.
It was, nothing like, it wasn't horrible or anything. I know my tone makes it sound like I think it was horrible. I think it was really cute. But it was just so 2000s. It really brought me back to 20 years ago. 20. Yeah. I still can't believe 20 years ago. Oh my god. So she's got a super pink room, super pink outfit, and she works at a very pink department store or outlet store. I'm not really sure what you would call it. I think they call it a department store. It's like a retail clothes store. And she goes, does her day to day. She takes her lunch break with her boyfriend Mickey, who is not named until like halfway through the episode. Yeah. It's just Rose's cute boyfriend or whatever, and gets the name dropped just casually. Mickey, like 25 minutes in. So I think, I'm not sure. It's a very quick scene because it's like a montage. But like at the end of her workday, she gets told to like go down and look for Wilson, I guess, who is the chief electrician at this place for whatever reason. And so she goes down to the basement and she's trying to find him, and he's just not around. And because she works at a department store, there's like mannequins in the basement, and they start coming to life. They just don't move like how I thought they would move, if I'm being honest. They move like people in very stuffy costumes, and there probably were very stuffy costumes, but I appreciate the practical effects in this. I think we're definitely going to talk about the effects of this episode.
Yeah, the practical effects are far more impressive in my opinion than I don't imagine that's a very controversial opinion by any means.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm not sure if I would call it, I think it's impressive. I think it's very admirable to do like practical effects when like you really want to do like CGI special effects. I have a feeling they probably mostly did that because they didn't have much of a budget. Well, they probably had a budget, but probably not enough to like put in CGI mannequins, which I'm glad they didn't do that.
Me too.
When there was CGI stuff, it was very
Spy Kids.
Very Spy Kids. Yeah, Spy Kids would be a good way to put it. Very silly looking, I think. I can't tell if it was meant to be like purposefully silly, or like it was meant to be scary. I think it was meant to be kind of both. I mean, it wasn't exactly super scary music. It was more like kind of eerie music when like the CGI effects would happen. But that's a bit later in the episode. I think so. Rose, she's like down there. She's trying to find Wilson. He's not there. Mannequins come to life, start very slowly just approaching her. I think this episode sometimes has a bit of an issue where I think maybe there was just like they had some extra run time and they were like, okay, well, we got to fill in this slot of time. So they kind of just linger on a lot of shots, especially when they want to show off their like effects, whether it's like practical or CGI. And so the mannequins spend a decent amount of time inching their way towards Rose as she slowly backs against the wall. But just in time before they raise a hand to her, the doctor shows up, grabs her hand, yells for her to run, and they book it. They hoof it.
As us Americans say,
yes.
They leg it in British English, in the Queen's English.
In the Queen's language.
English, my bad.
Yeah, the Queen's language. They apparently
not anymore. It's not the Queen's language.
Oh yeah, God rest her soul. I guess I don't know. I didn't know her like that. So, but he grabs her. They run out. And he goes on about a bit of a very fast-paced monologue about how like he's trying to save all the people on this planet. And she's like, what's going on? She's got a very thick accent. I personally could not. I'm very glad we had subtitles because
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, because like it's no offense, but I know when accents are like really thick, sometimes it's hard to understand if you're not from the place where they're from. And I don't know if it's even easily placed to say where she's from. I mean, I know in America sometimes we can tell like, you know, when someone's like a northerner or a southerner because of their accent. I have no idea where Rose and her family's from. They sound, if I had to say anything, I guess like London. They're like London accents, but I don't know, they seem thicker than the average London accent that I've heard, which is not much. So he says bye to her, but before he does, he closes the door on her and then opens it again. He's like, by the way, I'm the doctor. What's your name? And she's like, I'm Rose. And he's like, okay, Rose, run for your life. And run!
Just barks it at her. That's his first line.
He barks a lot of stuff at her this episode. I do not remember him being so like rash with her. So it was very, I mean, maybe not funny, but like very interesting to see how, I guess, blunt he can be, the Ninth Doctor. Because I remember when you said, I think when you said in our introduction episode, that you were like, as far as you knew with the Ninth Doctor, he might be the grumpy one. And I was like, I don't think he's the grumpy one in my head. And then we watched this episode and it's like, okay, he's a little bit grumpy.
Yeah, he's just grumping around the place.
He really is. He keeps going on about how, like, oh, I gotta save these stupid apes because you guys keep getting in trouble. And it's like, I don't. Well, dang, I don't remember the Doctor calling us apes. Like, I feel like a little rude. But I guess he's sort of like, that's just his outward persona. When you get later in the episode, he sort of becomes a bit more sentimental about the human race. But when he's mucking about with Rose, he seems to be a bit frustrated that humans, I guess, keep getting into dangerous situations and he has to be the one to fix it.
Unlike him, he never gets into any danger at all.
Yeah. he's a very wholesome man, never gets into danger, and there's definitely not aliens out there looking for him, trying to kill him. I mean, I think at this point there isn't, but maybe later that will happen. Spoilers. He tells Rose to run. She leaves, and she has this bit of a walk back, and she looks, and she's like, I wonder what happened, and she turns, and her entire building just explodes. And if I remember, when she goes home to her apartment, the television, or the telly, is like thousands of people. Did thousands of people die, or was it like hundreds of people?
Oh, well, I said thousands of people died as a joke, but I don't know if that actually happened.
Okay, so I don't think... I don't remember if people died, but I don't think it would be in the thousands, especially because it was...
I don't think they mentioned anyone died. I just thought it would be funny to be like, thousands are dead.
Yeah. Well, I guess people... I would assume not many people, if any, died because the department store was closed. Mm-hmm. And she was, I think, the last one out, basically. So I don't think anyone died, but her mother is like is a bit concerned, but she's also like talking with her friends, trying to convince Rose to like do an interview or file a police report to get compensation. Her boyfriend Mickey still hasn't been named at this point. Walks in, asks her how she's doing, and makes sure she's okay, and also tries to convince her to like stop drinking her tea and to go to a bar to drink alcohol for quote unquote something stronger. And she's like, you just want to watch the game. And he's like, okay, we could catch the last 5 minutes of the game. And I can't tell if this is like a green flag or like a red flag. I think it's like a mid flag. I don't know.
An orange flag.
Yeah, I mean, he's being concerned for her, but he's also like, I'm missing the big game, girl. But he didn't open with that, so I guess I appreciate that. Bare minimum, king. So I don't remember. I think it's like the next morning she wakes up and what's the word? Because I thought she had told Mickey to throw out the plastic arm or whatever that she had brought back from the department store after the whole attack thing. And she told him to throw it away. But the next morning it's there again.
That's true.
I think that was just meant to imply that like it moves on its own, maybe?
Probably.
That part I was not super sure about. But the doctor shows up to her apartment and is like, hey, what are you doing here? And she's like, I live here. And it's like, why? It's like, because I just do. And I think that's like sometimes a running joke with the doctors, that the doctor will be like, what are you doing here? And then like the person's like, I'm doing the most normal thing ever here. And the doctor goes, why? I'm pretty sure like the 11th Doctor makes that joke sometime in like the next few seasons. Maybe even the 10th Doctor too. I think that's the whole running bit that he's like an alien or whatever.
Is that maybe why they drew attention to the cat flap, was so that is the implication that the arm came in through the cat flap? Because that was what I thought the cat flap was going to be for.
That might be it.
But we didn't see it.
Because the nails were on the floor, so like
exactly.
Because she was like, "Oh, Mom, you need to like nail down the cat flap, or strays will come in," and she's like, "I did," but that there are nails on the floor, but the cat flap is undone. I don't remember if I just watched the episode, but I don't remember if the doctor was the one who like undid that with his magic wand, aka the sonic screwdriver, or if the arm just like burst in itself and like just came into the room. But I feel like that the latter would probably be the explanation. But so he like walks around and Jackie Tyler, I think she doesn't get named in this episode, but Jackie she sees him and just like starts flirting with him, and he's like, no, he like shuts that down. Um, just a bit of like dialogue. I don't call it fodder because that feels like a negative connotation, but uh, just a bit of like dialogue just to fill in the space. Just,
flavor text.
Yeah, the most significant thing I think to point out is that the doctor like is just walking around being a bit quirky, like looking around the apartment, and he actually looks into the mirror and is like reacts to his own ears, and it's just like, wow, those are pretty big, and which basically implies that this is the first time he's seeing his face, as if
That's
he's
true.
like recently regenerated. Which,
or at least getting a good look.
yeah, because I was gonna say like I'm sure like old fans know this, but one particular thing that happens a little later in the episode is that there's evidence of like the doctor being spotted scattered throughout history, and I think it's a bit weird that he's been traveling a bit and clearly he's been like saving people for at least a hot minute, and he still hasn't seen his face. It feels like a bit of a contradictory, but it's like I don't think it's too crazy of a contradiction.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that until you brought it up.
I guess like he only went into the past, and do they not have mirrors? He went to 1812. They had mirrors back then. He literally went to the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
They had mirrors.
And they had shiny things.
Yeah, they had shiny things with reflections. So I find it pretty hard to believe that the doctor hadn't seen his ears at that point. I think it's just meant to be like a little nod to the audience who have seen like classic Who, and they're like, oh, so he regenerated. I see. I am a very observant viewer. So let's see what happens next. Let me look at my
We got
notes.
our first mention so far of gay people.
Oh yeah, gay people. Russell T Davies, he was like, I gotta put at least one mention of gay people existing in this show. For context, if you hadn't seen the episode and just listening to us talk about it, as one of the little quirky things the doctor talks about is like he picks up a tabloid magazine and sees like the cover or something, or sees like an article, and then just makes a comment like, oh, that'll never work, he's gay and she's an alien.
Yeah.
Or something, and I'm like, oh, okay.
No, that was exactly it.
Yeah, or vice versa, like, or she's gay and he's an alien. I'm not sure. I think it was the first one.
It was the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
He was gay, she's an alien.
How are they ever gonna make it work?
Sometimes a family can just be a gay man and his alien girlfriend.
So as the doctor is there, he notices the plastic arm is there, and the plastic arm, I guess, detects him and starts attacking him. I think it's just practical effects being used. He just pretends Christopher Eccleston, the actor for the Ninth Doctor, just pretends that the hand is attacking him. But I guess he does a decently good job, I think. And Rose is like, okay, stop, messing around, dude. I'm trying to ask you to explain to me what's going on here. And then the arm jumps, floats a little bit, and then attacks her. And they have this sort of like wrestle fight where he pulls off the hand. And he uses his sonic screwdriver, like presses the button and goes, and it turns it off. And then so she's like, okay, you have to tell me what's going on. He's like, okay, I guess. And then they walk out, and he's like, I got the arm, I'm out of here. And she's like, well, wait a second. And they go to this like this one take walkthrough where they walk from the apartment to the TARDIS, and it's like most of it is like one take, and I don't know, I just like noticed that. I thought it was kind of interesting as like an art. I have to use my art student knowledge to be like, they did one take, what is the meaning of this? I think it shows off like the acting skills of Billy Piper and Christopher Eccleston really well. I think they did like a very good job this episode, in my opinion. So he like walks through, explains as much as he can to her, I guess, and he sort of, I think, implies that he's an alien. He doesn't tell her outright that he is at the moment, but he talks about how he's different from people because in the way that people forget that the earth is like spinning and moving at all times, he can actually feel it, and he like holds her hand, and I think trying to imply that he's trying to make her feel it too. Not in a not in like a sensual way. That sounded
red
weird.
pillar.
Yeah. But basically being like, can you feel it too? Maybe you're like me a little bit in mind, not in body, because you're a human person. And so he lets go of her hand. He starts walking away. I don't remember. He's just like, all right, see ya. He tells her to forget her. Or he tells her to forget him. God.
Him.
Pronouns these days, am I right? I hate it.
Of course you have a sonic screwdriver and pronouns.
And 2 hearts. He doesn't mention he has 2 hearts yet. I wonder when the first drop of that is going to be. I'm curious.
I'll try and take note of that when it does come.
Yeah. But he walks off. And I said this while we were watching, but I thought it was kind of interesting in the main shot of him walking off. It's like they don't really call attention to the TARDIS, really, which is very interesting. It's more of like a thing for old audience members to get. And I think it's meant to sort of imply, like, at least for Rose, this is like a background thing for her. Like, she doesn't even associate that box with the Doctor, at least not yet. There is a shot, I think, when she like turns away and he like walks into it, and then she walks away, hears the sound of the TARDIS, the little raspy sound, and then turns around, runs back, and it's gone. But she still hears the sound because it's a very long sound the TARDIS makes. And I hope you're ready to get used to that, Hailey, because they're going to use the entire sound effect every time the TARDIS lands.
Oh boy.
Or at least they try to. I know there's like a shortened version they sometimes use. I think like the end of it where it's like doo doo, like that part. I think sometimes they cut that out.
Okay.
All right. So what happens next is, what happens next is that Rose goes home. She goes to research the Doctor. No, she doesn't even go home. She goes to Mickey's apartment, and I think Mickey is like the most sleazebag, or not sleazebag, sleazeball, sort of personality in the entire episode. Is like about right now is when he like grabs her butt as she's going through, and then like is like, oh yeah, I can't wait to get in the bedroom, can you? And she's like, I'm just gonna go check like the computer, and he's like, okay. And then she's like, can you make me some coffee and please wash your dishes, don't just rinse it. Like, you're not making a good case for yourself, Mickey. Like, I think I was in his corner for like a good amount of time, and then this made me go, all right, guy, are you the kind of guy who like makes your girlfriend do all the dishes? Well, she goes to his like very 2000s computer, the white Q of the 2005 day, of which my family definitely had one of those back in the day. And
as did mine.
Yeah, I remember when I think back in like 2007, 2008, we moved houses, and I remember very vividly we got a new computer for the house, and it was like a flat screen computer, like the monitors you get like these days, where like a black flat screen. And I remember like being so in awe of that as a kid.
Me too.
And just being like, I didn't know computers could do that. This is like a rich people computer. And I
like Rosie in the TARDIS.
Yeah, this is my TARDIS. And I remember watching my dad like play chess on it for the first time, and I was like, this is crazy, I want to play. And he was like, oh, I gotta use this for work. And I was like, whatever, hate it here. And then I think I just played Webkins on it every day. I tried to play it every day, I don't know. But yeah, she goes on to what is the website title? I actually have it like written down in my notes.
It was search something, right?
She used a vague like search engine, and then she found like whoisdoctorwho.com, or like whoisthedoctor.com or something. It's probably not .com because they're in the UK, so it's .co.uk, or at least that's how it is for me. And she I think when she looks up like Doctor Blue Box, and it comes up with this page, and it's like It's very funny to me because she pulls it up and it's like, have you seen this man? And it's like a blurry picture of the doctor. And I think you said it while we were watching, like, this really reminds me of that, like, creepypasta of like, have you seen this man in your dreams?
Exactly, the man everyone sees in their dreams.
Yeah, the Christopher Eccleston's face is what you see in your dreams.
Yeah.
But she looks him up. There's apparently the guy who runs the website is a guy named Clive, and he's like looking for people who have seen this doctor and have interacted with him. And so she decides to email him because that's what you did back in the day. Yeah, you emailed each other. I mean, you still do, you still do these days. But I feel like if this was made in like a modern day, she'd probably like email him, and then they would have like texted or something.
They Discord message each other.
Yeah, they have. I've got to message you over Skype. So she goes to visit Clive. I think bad idea because she's meeting a stranger on that she found on the internet in a not public place. This is a very unsafe thing to do, but I guess they had to do it at his house because he has like a shed full of like conspiracy, like Doctor Who stuff or whatever. And Mickey's very concerned about this. I think validly concerned.
Very much so.
Yeah, like don't go to like a middle-aged man's like apartment. I think they made him have a family so he looked more like non-threatening, I guess. But I think if I was in that situation, I was Rose. I would if I found a website that vaguely alluded to an experience I had, even if I did contact the person running it, which I wouldn't. Even if I did, I would not go to their house the next day and go inside their house and have the door close, even if they did have a family. That's like step one to getting murdered.
Yeah.
But luckily it goes well for her. They go to Clive's shed and he tells her all about how he's been documenting like the doctor traveling around history. Apparently he was around during the JFK assassination. He was also around during 1912, right before the Titanic sank. He convinced a family not to go on. And then, like, I don't remember what he said about the third thing. Like, I think the 1888 or something. It was
when Krakatoa blew up, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, someone made, like, a sketchy drawing on, like, on, like, a letter-sized shaped paper. And I was just, like, very convenient that this was... letter. I mean, I think it's very funny that this ancient, or maybe not ancient, but centuries old piece of paper is like the same size paper that we use like standardly to write things down on, with like the edges like burned a little bit. So I thought that was a little bit funny. But I also thought it was hilarious the JFK picture that the doctor is in. It's like some really bad Photoshop. I mean, I don't know. Did Photoshop exist in 2005? I don't know.
I feel like it did.
Probably
it still looks awful.
Yeah, that's no excuse though. It still looks bad. I think the 1912 picture looked a lot better, but it was also harder to tell that was Christopher Eccleston's face. So I guess it's like pros and cons. Do you want the picture to look good or do you want it to look like the doctor was there? Rose comes away from all that and oh yeah, the Clive starts going like, yeah, if you interact with a doctor, you're marked for death because his companion is death. And so Rose like looks at him almost like she's listening, but then it cuts to her like leaving and she's like, yeah, so he was insane. He was just a crazy conspiracy theorist. Let's get out of here. Oh yeah, in between this scene of her like interacting with Clive, Mickey in a very, I think maybe unintentionally funny scene, gets lured by a plastic garbage can, sees that it's moving, goes up to it and like looks into it. There's nothing in it, but then his fingers like get attached to it, and what proceeds is maybe like an overly long sequence, an overly long sequence of him like trying to pull away from the trash can, but his fingers are like attached and there's like a CGI like stretching effect where it looks like he's like attached like with plastic or rubber. And I feel like the scene goes on maybe a little bit too long. I do think they were trying to like show off like, look how cool our special effects are for like 2005 standards. Yeah. And I don't know, just like eat him already, dude. Just eat that guy already. And then it eats him and then it burps. I think obviously for comedic effect, I don't know why the plastic machines would burp. I mean, they come from like a molten plastic lava thing, as we find out at the end of the episode. So I don't know why he did that. Now, why did he do that? Why did he burp? But as Rose gets back into the car, it is discovered by us, the audience, but not by her, that Mickey has been replaced by a plastic double, and he really wants pizza for some reason. And they go out to get pizza at, what did you describe it, Hailey, as?
So as I mentioned, for anyone who did not listen to our episode 0, I am unfortunately a Disney adult. So I said, like, oh, this looks like a restaurant you would eat at in Tomorrowland in Disney World.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of pizza place is this? There's like a whole bar like over there. And I don't know, it just looks weird. And also there was like a champagne option, I guess, because they didn't seem
Which he was very pushy about.
Yeah, they didn't seem too surprised by it being offered champagne at this pizza place. But the plastic Mickey basically just starts like interrogating Rose about the doctor. This is actually when we get the drop of Nikki of Mickey's name, where Rose is just like, Mickey, why are you acting like this? You're acting weird. Stop asking me about this. And he's like, well, tell me more about the doctor. You know his plan, right? What's his plan? She's like, I don't know. The doctor basically comes in offering champagne. Well, pretending to be a waiter offering champagne. And then it becomes very clear that this is the doctor, and he shakes up the champagne bottle and shoots it at the top at Mickey, or Plastic Mickey, and there's just this weird effect with Mickey's face, and he just has this crazy look on his face because he's supposed to like be melty a little bit as plastic, but it's still very weird. He gets these like uncanny eyes that like really reminded me of like the monsters from Vita Carnis.
Yeah.
What are they? The mimics? These like.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, these big eyes with like giant black irises and like minimal like whites in the eye. It was very creepy looking for like a split second, but also very goofy looking because he looked very like shocked when he got hit in the head with the cork bottle, or the cork head. And so the doctor and them fight. The doctor pulls his head off, and Mickey is like, Plastic Mickey's body is like smashing the entire place around. Rose pulls the fire escape to get everyone to get out. So they start running. I think it's like nighttime at this point, because it was daytime when they went to go visit Clive, and I guess it was nighttime because I remember when they go out to the TARDIS, it was like dark out. And Rose is trying to like get through the gate, but the doctor's like, no, we should just go in here. So there's actually like a bit of like a special effect milestone apparently in this, where in the classic Who, whenever there's a point where if there was ever a point where the TARDIS doors were open and you should be able to see inside, it would usually be a black void because they couldn't do the special effects at that time for that.
Okay.
And they were able to do that more in like obviously now in 2005, I think it was pretty easy to do something like that. You just put like a green screen in there or something. I don't know what they did. But I did catch, like when the doctor first enters the TARDIS, you should be able to see inside, but it was a black void. And so I can't tell if that was on accident or if they were like intentionally alluding to like, haha, remember in Classic Who when you couldn't see inside this thing?
Remember when we didn't have technology?
We're about to blow your mind. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I did think it was a little bit interesting, especially after I read the trivia about it last night. But they go to escape. Rose has a bit of a classic first companion moment where she like walks in and then walks out and then does like a circle around the TARDIS, and she's like, what is going on? And then she re-enters it after the doctor's like, we gotta go, and then they go. And then I think he like explains the TARDIS to her. Do you remember the acronym for it, Hailey? Because I do.
Nope.
So I forgot to tell Hailey, but TARDIS is an acronym. It is time and relative dimension in space.
Oh, so that you can remember.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember anything like doing my chores during the day, like washing dishes, but I can remember time and relative dimension in space. there's like a scene where Rose is like really upset with him for a second because she's like, dude, my boyfriend just died, and did you just like, because he was like, oh yeah, that guy just died, and you're like, that guy, you mean my boyfriend Mickey? He had a name. I didn't know he had a name. It took you 25 minutes to mention his name in the episode.
Yeah, he was very cold about Mickey's whole situation.
Yeah,
I know not on purpose, but
yeah, he like basically explains it when they finally land that because he referred to him like as like some kid or whatever, and Rose is still mad at him for that. I think a valid reason to be mad at someone, and he's like, I'm. It's hard for me to remember that because I'm kind of busy saving the world because you guys keep messing it up or something. Or like you guys keep getting into trouble. I don't really remember what he says, but I think he calls them apes again, which I feel like is a little bit rude. He has a bit of an angsty moment, but I think he like very quickly bounces back from it because Rose is like, "Oh yeah, how did we like really travel?" And he's like, "Yup, pretty cool, right?" And he starts to explain that what they're up against right now is something called the Nestine consciousness. I had never heard of that before, but I think that is an old villain from Classic Who.
Okay.
I think they're also called the Autons. I think we'll be seeing more of that, especially as we go on. Like sometimes there'll be like new villains on the show, and sometimes we'll have like old villains. And I'm pretty sure this was one of the old villains, as I was reading on the wiki. So the Doctor basically explains that the plastics want to take over the world because they enjoy the resources humans have, which I guess is fair. We are very much plastic producers. We produce a lot of plastic, which I think is very unfortunate in this day and age. Oh yeah, they have the very classic moment where the Doctor is like, so they're somehow like communicating with this like big round communicator like right smack in the middle of London, but what could it possibly be? And it's the London Eye, which is a very popular tourist attraction as far as I know in London, which is basically just a big Ferris wheel. But
it's right behind me, isn't it?
It's right behind me. Yeah, literally. And yeah, a big Ferris wheel, which as far as I can tell, the biggest one I've ever seen. Like the Ferris wheels I've been on have been pathetic in comparison, really. And so he realizes that the London Eye is behind him, and Rose helps him figure it out by being like looking at it sassily or whatever. And he turns and does his iconic catchphrase of "fantastic." I don't know if you know this, Hailey, but a lot of the Doctors have catchphrases.
Yes, I am. I'm familiar with the fact that they have catchphrases. I didn't know that was his catchphrase, though.
Yes, he will be saying that many times. I'll say, I would guess maybe like every other episode he'll probably say "fantastic." Okay. Do you know like any of the other Doctors' catchphrases?
Geronimo is one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Alan Z.
And what?
It's Alan Z.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Dallin Z.
No. If I did, I didn't mean to.
Okay, yeah, you got him. I actually don't know if the 12th Doctor has a catchphrase. He's too serious to have a catchphrase. They might have done away with it as the later seasons went on, but the first three definitely had catchphrases.
I feel like catchphrases have kind of become, like, not as accepted in the modern day.
That's so unfortunate. I mean, like, I guess things get... I would expect Doctor Who of all media, how cheesy it is sometimes to be the one to like keep up the catchphrase stuff. But I think when the 12th Doctor came around, they wanted to be a bit more serious. He can be goofy, but he was definitely one of the more serious Doctors. So what happens next? So once they figure that out, they're able to like locate the main source where the plastic guys are hiding, and they go down this sewer thing, and the Doctor and Rose show up, and they see where Mickey is being kept. He's alive. I think Hailey was worried that he had died, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, thank God, because he was probably my favorite character so far, honestly. I really like him.
He's very wholesome. I like him.
He's very cute.
I don't enjoy that he's a bit cowardly, because this could be an issue we talk about later. There's better people to explain this, but I think there has been concerns a bit, especially as the series goes on, that Rose chooses the Doctor over Mickey, the only, like, at least so far, the only black character
Yeah.
in this show so far, and portrays him as a very cowardly and sometimes I think he's a good boyfriend. Maybe not the perfect boyfriend, but I think a decent boyfriend. But they do use his faults sometimes for comedic effect, and I do think that's a bit unfortunate. I know there's probably like video essays on the topic, and we could probably talk about that later, especially when it becomes more prominent, I think, in the series. But at least at the moment, she's not like romantically choosing the Doctor over Mickey. At least not at the moment. I mean, who's to say what comes later?
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, because I mean, as we see in the end, once she realizes it's a time machine, that's when she is okay with popping out for a bit to go hang out with the Doctor, but she still kisses him goodbye. But to get back to where we were, they find Mickey, and he's fine. He's just very scared and realizes that the plastic is talking. And the Doctor goes up to basically negotiate a peace, but also has like a backup plan of like the goo vial, my blue, that will definitely like immediately kill the plastic. But he states to Rose that he's not here to kill them. He's here to like reason with them first, and if they don't take to that, then he'll probably have to kill them. But he gives them a chance to like give up or surrender or to stop hurting people. And it's actually the first mention of the Shadow Proclamation in the series. I will say I have like a very extremely vague memory on what the Shadow Proclamation is, but I'm pretty sure that's important for later.
I did take note of that because I had a feeling just from how he was talking about it that was going to end up being important.
Yeah, but it seems to be like some like negotiations standards, like some sort of constitution of sorts. Maybe aliens go by. I'm pretty sure they mention it later, but I'm not entirely sure. He tries to negotiate with them. They don't take to it very well because they realize he has the blue death goo, and they consider his TARDIS a superior technology, so it's like a danger to them or whatever. And so they seize him, and then they start activating the plastic mannequins all over London, and they start attacking. I assume it's only London, because there's no other shots in like other countries of this happening, especially because their communication line is like the London Eye. I think the attack only takes place in London, probably. I think it's very important to, I guess, take note of the extent of these alien attacks, because sometimes I remember I would get confused as I would watch the show, like, well, how does this character not know about this? There was like a whole alien attack and they don't even know about it, and it's like, well, sometimes these aliens attacks only happen in like a city. It doesn't even happen even across a country, let alone the world. So I think it's just been allocated to that. Not even all of London, I would even guess, like that section of London. I guess the closest to the plastic molten lava plastic bucket thing. But the plastic people, they start walking around. They have guns. Apparently, I don't think they had guns earlier, but they have guns now, which is very interesting.
Just built into their hands.
Yeah, I can't say anything for fear of spoilers, but I was very interested that they had guns for a reason. And I was like, ooh, I didn't remember this part. I'm going to try to be as vague as possible. All my longtime fans, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is not something I expected to be important.
It's not going to be important for a while, if that helps.
Okay. Okay.
But I did notice, and I was like, oh. Oh. You know that clip of that girl, and she's like, oh.
Yeah.
That's me. I was like, oh. But it's not really that important. I think in this moment in particular, when the plastic people are like attacking and the Doctor's being seized by these plastic guys, there's a lot of lingering shots. Like, it takes like a really long time for all this to happen. Clive gets shot because he happens to be out shopping with his family. I think he just straight up dies. And Jackie Tyler, Rose's mom, she was out shopping, and so she's starting to get attacked, but she doesn't get harmed. She's about to be harmed, but then Rose is like, you know, I don't have a lot going for me, but what I do have going for me is that in high school, I got a bronze in gymnastics. She doesn't say high school because I don't think British people say high school. I think they say like...
It was like grade 7, I think she said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they don't say like middle school, high school. They say like primary or secondary school, and I'm not sure which grade numbers those are. I guess if there are any British people watching this, when I say middle school, I mean like 6th, 7th, 8th grade or 8th year, whatever. When you're like 12 to 13, around that age, and then high school is like 14 to 18, so like 9th to 12th grade. At least that's what it's like for us. So when you're in like when you're like teenager, that's high school, and then preteen is like middle school, and then elementary school is when you're a little kid. So if she said grade 7, I guess that's a middle school for us.
I would think so.
And so she got the bronze in gymnastics in middle school, and she was like, and that's a perfect enough reason for me to swing on this chain above lava. But it works. She goes and she kicks the plastic guys off of him, and while she's kicking them, the blue goo that they were holding hostage falls into the lava stuff, and it explodes or something, and they hide in the TARDIS to be protected. So once they like escape from that, they're able to the TARDIS is able to travel out of it, and Rose calls her mom to make sure she's okay, and then Rose's mom was like, "You gotta get home, they're attacking everywhere," and Rose is like, "Lol," and she like hangs up on her. Which I think is like a...
Too bad.
Yeah, that sucks for you. Well, I think she's laughing about how she said that exact same thing to her mom earlier. I'm pretty sure that was the joke, but I still think it's funny, like, out of context, her mom was like, "I was just attacked. I almost died," and Rose is like, haha, hangs up. Not even a
Not
single...
my problem.
Not my problem, girl. So after she does that, she, like, comforts Mickey a bit, but the doctor, she's like, excuse me, I just she'd-heard the doctor. I can't do that.
That's not for a while.
Bro, I don't have to she-her this guy till, like, 2020.
Oh, then I'll be forced.
Then I'll be forced to she-her her. She-her him. She-her him. So after it's all over and it's all calmed down, the doctor... Oh, no, wait. So the doctor basically says, like, "Well, that was pretty crazy," and Rose is like, "Oh yeah, you would have died without me, so that was pretty helpful." And then he was like, "You know what? You're right. Do you want to travel with me?" And she's like, "Really? What?" And he's like, "We'll travel anywhere you want, anywhere in space. It'll be pretty cool." And then Rose is like, "I don't know if I can. She describes it as she has her mom to look after, and I think she calls Mickey a lump or something.
Yeah, a stupid lump.
A stupid lump, while he's like cowering at her feet and like holding her hip. And I do think it's pretty cute. It's kind of cute.
It is. I felt so maternal. It's like, oh, this is my son. This is my baby boy. This is my baby boy that's like 10 or 15 years older than me.
This is my little guy I have to take care of. And then the doctor specifically goes, the invitation doesn't extend to Mickey. It, like, doesn't extend to him. Like,
that's because Mickey calls him an alien and a thing.
Oh, okay. I thought he was just
Mickey
being
was
rude.
Like, "Don't go with him. He's an alien. He's a thing." He goes, "Yeah, he's not invited."
And it's like, okay. Do you think he was invited up until that moment?
Maybe.
I doubt it. I don't think the doctor particularly liked him. He kept referring to him as like a kid and like forgetting his name. So she says no, and he's like, all right, and then he like flies away, or he doesn't fly away, he fades away. The TARDIS fades away. It doesn't really fly. The TARDIS flies in the time vortex, but it doesn't fly like that much in person.
In the Coraline Tunnel.
Yeah, the Coraline Tunnel. So he fades away. They start walking home, but real quick he fades back in. He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, not only do we travel through space, we actually travel through time." And the moment he says that, Rose is just like, "Oh, well, then I could totally come."
Never mind.
She kisses Mickey goodbye, and she's like, "Thanks." And then he's like, "Thanks for what?" And she's like, "I don't know, lol," and like leaves. And I guess that's kind of fair. I mean, if I heard that, like, I could, like, travel anywhere in the world and it's also a time machine, I would probably be like, well, if I can come back at, like, 15 minutes from now, that would be great. So I don't blame her too much, but I do think it's unfortunate that she just kind of, like, from Mickey's point of view, runs off with a stranger. So
An alien, a thing.
a thing, a very wild day for Mickey indeed. But that is the end of the episode. I think we'll talk about the next time on Doctor Who. We did watch that, and I think we could talk about how we feel about that in our next podcast episode, just to keep like that content with that content, like to keep it all
Yeah.
organized. Um, and so we'll talk about our thoughts. We'll talk about our thoughts on that in the next episode. But other than that, that's the summary of the episode. Hailey, do you have any thoughts? Any words?
And I have plenty of thoughts, and I'll have to go through my notes because I took some notes.
Tell me all
So
of
yeah,
them.
overall I enjoyed it. The characters were the best part. I really like Mickey. I think he's a cute boyfriend, and I like that he's clearly very caring towards her. But she's also a fun character. The Doctor's a fun character. I kind of am not crazy about Jackie yet. Because like the flirting with the Doctor put me off a little bit, as well as the like being super pushy towards her daughter after she almost died. But but she is funny, so I'm sure I'll come around to her eventually. I brought up to you, I'm a big Twilight Zone fan. I'm a big fan of the original show.
Oh, me too.
And there is a episode, I don't know if you've seen, about like spoiler warning for the original Twilight Zone that came out decades and decades ago.
But it came out in the 60s.
Yeah, it's all about mannequins, and if I'm remembering correctly, here comes the spoiler. I think the twist is that I haven't seen it in years, but I think it was about like a girl who thinks that she's a normal girl who gets stuck in the store and she's trying to get out, and then I think by the end of the episode she realized that she is actually a mannequin. It's something like that.
That like really reminds me of like I don't know if anyone knows. This might be just like a niche thing I liked as a kid, but there was this book series called like the Red Hot Weenies or whatever. Okay. So the book specifically I read was called The Battle of the Red Hot Pepper Weenies and Other Warped and Creepy Tales by David Lubar.
And a mouthful.
And it kind of reminded me of Goosebumps, where it was just like a collection of like short creepy stories for kids, and I ate that stuff up as a kid. It's like creepy stuff. I would read Goosebumps, I would read this book, and one of the stories in that book was this kid wanted to be in this group of like cool kids, but in order to do that he had to like do like initiation or whatever. And his initiation was that he had to sneak into like a clothing store and stay there the whole night. And while he's there, he starts to see like there's like people there with him. But the twist is like the people there are mannequins, and they like turn him into a mannequin.
Oh man.
And the next day his mind is like so warped that he's like happy being a mannequin. He's like, oh, I'm so glad to like have these clothes and I get to show people all the clothes in our store. It's great, and I can't move at all. I actually can't remember if he was happy about it or upset about it, but he definitely could not move by the end of the story, and I think he could only come out like move around at night. I might have been like a Night at the Museum situation where he couldn't like leave the store or consequences or whatever. But it was a very creepy story. I definitely got to read that book again. But yeah, a lot of creepy mannequin stories, and
That's true.
I wish that the mannequins in this episode were just a bit more creepy. It was very apparent that these were just like people in costumes.
Yeah.
I think I saw in the trivia that these costumes were like especially uncomfortable to wear, and it took like a lot of time on set to like record like the show because it just the extras were just having a really hard time with it, which I sympathize with that.
It's probably worth bringing up right now in the first episode. As Julia already knows, I am not the biggest sci-fi person in the world. I don't dislike sci-fi, but it can be a little bit hard for me to get into. I am more of a, not that you can't be both, but I'm more of a medieval fantasy, like, you know, magic and dragons type of person, Dungeons and Dragons, if you will, type of person. So I'm curious to see how that will warp my opinions on the show, because on the one hand, I feel like it might make parts of the show a little bit difficult to get into, which I'm about to get into a sec. If anything, I could definitely see this show winding up being one of the sci-fi media that I like a bit better, because one of the reasons I'm not a big sci-fi person is because I'm just not interested in this kind of stuff when it's taken really seriously. So My favorite pieces of sci-fi media, unironically, are Futurama and Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I like those, but I like that they're colorful. I hate how uncolorful a lot of sci-fi from like the 90s onward can be. And also I like sci-fi when it's used for fun, basically, as a way of showing like here's all this cool stuff that we can do in the future and stuff that's not possible in the real world, instead of being like just do it. Like I'm not a big like post-apocalypse dystopia type of girly, and I feel like that crosses over with sci-fi a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I liked the episode. I had a little bit of trouble during some of the more exposition-y parts, like as very impressive as it was, where they weren't cutting it all during his long exposition to her. I was a little bit bored and having trouble keeping up with all these details, but I do appreciate that. I have it in my notes that it made it a lot easier because of the dynamic between the two, and I like the bits of personality instead of just him just droning on and on and on, as I feel like some sci-fi will do, and some fantasy will do. That you can see that in multiple genres. Yeah. But I appreciate that they let some personality come in.
Yeah, I think Russell T Davies does like a good job, at least in when he's doing the show running stuff, of like focusing more on the characters as opposed to like the overall sci-fi-ness of it all, because like you're really, because the we're seeing the world through like Rose's eyes, so
exactly.
As she's learning everything, and even if I think if you don't understand something, then she probably doesn't either, because the doctor talks really fast, and he's like, well, there's this and this and this and this and this, and she's probably catching about as much as you're catching. There's like space stuff, he's traveling, and he's an alien. That's kind of all you really need to know. He's talking about a lot of stuff. But anything that's important, he'll probably say again later.
Okay. This is more of a random point, but it really stuck with me. What was that guy's problem? That before the trash can scene, there was like a guy bringing out, I guess because we needed the guy to bring the trash can scene out, to bring the trash can out for the trash can scene. But why did he like glare daggers at Mickey? Like he had some problem.
I'll be so honest with you, I have no clue. I don't know what his problem was.
What was his damage?
Because like you would assume that like, well, if it's like one of the plastic guys, then like this is just another copy, so Mickey wouldn't have been the only copy, so there would have been another person down there. So I don't know. I think he was just maybe just a guy in not a great mood. Maybe he was just mad that he was like on his street while he was putting out the garbage. I don't know. He wasn't even putting out the garbage. There was nothing in that thing.
That's true.
Why did he put it on the street for the garbage truck to get?
I want them to deliver the garbage.
That guy was a freak, indeed.
But yeah, I'm a little sad because I know that she's probably going to wind up leaving him, quote unquote, for the doctor, or at least having that conflict, which I'm sad about because I really like him.
That is usually
and I like
the trope,
them.
But
I figured as much. I like their girl boss, male wife vibes. I was sad that Clive apparently died because I was kind of expecting him to be like an important character.
Yeah, like it's like they do it off screen to like I guess censor it because they should have just like shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Okay. But yeah, I'm sad because I was kind of expecting him to like come back and react. I found his bit of the episode extremely interesting because this is also something I like in sci-fi is like different interpretations of stuff, like seeing how it affects culture and people, and I like that you could see him through time and how different people have interpreted him, and to these people that are catching on and coming up with the theories. And I especially liked him kind of equating him to death. I thought it was a really cool like idea.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, like the way he works with the information he has. Like he doesn't have all the answers, so he like describes the doctor as like a person in a long line of doctors, but also he's immortal.
Oh yeah, and I liked him saying like it seems like he inherited that name. Like I thought that was an interesting way for people to interpret it, because that makes sense that people would interpret it that way.
Yeah, because like I don't think regeneration is on the forefront of like a human person's mind. I think it makes more sense if I was like in this guy's shoes to like explain it that way.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think you'll probably have to get used to, because that's not an uncommon trope in Doctor Who, is having like a side character who like provides a lot of information and becomes a bit you get a bit attached to them, and then they die with it by the
and then they get killed. Yeah,
by the end of the episode they're dead.
Okay, I'll learn to get used to that then.
It's not too it doesn't happen. It doesn't always happen, but it's not too uncommon of a thing. I would say it happens multiple times per season. Maybe not
His
every
poor
other
son and
episode,
daughter.
but yeah, he had a full family.
Yeah, the student life.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think that helps you like feel for him a bit. A part of me wishes like his death wasn't off screen because I did feel for him.
Me too.
But I do understand like you don't want to like on the first episode of your new show want to show an on-screen death, especially as
Can't upset the children.
yeah, especially as violent as that.
But I think that's like kind of the bulk of my thoughts. I liked it. I found it interesting. I'm glad it wasn't super heavy with the exposition and sciencey stuff because I was half expecting that. It's a good like this seems like it's a good piece of sci-fi media for people like me who aren't super into the genre to like get into and acclimate themselves comfortably.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to like watch more episodes because I think this show does get goofy, it does get campy, but it also gets a bit sci-fi-y. I'm hoping that with every like scene that you might be a little bored with that's like too exposition-y or sciencey, there'll also be another scene where like they do goofy stuff and people are in like funky alien costumes and you
Yeah.
get to laugh at that because people get in alien costumes a lot in this show and it's very fun to like look at it.
And just for clarity's sake, and I do still appreciate like because even if it's not super my thing, like the whole world that they're setting up is still like super interesting, and it was cool like seeing these aliens and like learning about how they work. Even if it's not like my favorite type of fiction in the world, I still like appreciate that it is objectively very interesting.
I will say like this could be like an asset or a downfall. There are sometimes there's because it's a bit of a monster of the week show. Sometimes there's aliens where like they'll explain like the whole lore behind them and why they're here, like they did with the plastic guys. Like, oh, this is what they won. This is what they're doing here. A lot of times they'll like explain it all, and it's hard to tell when you're supposed to keep that in your memory because these guys are going to come back later and like start some stuff again, and it's hard to tell when like these are definitely just one-off guys and you're not really going to see them again. I think for the most part these guys are just one-off guys. I don't remember. I think they might come back in like one other time, but not in any sort of like overall series plot kind of way.
They're not vital.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them like a season finale type villain, If you recognize them, you recognize them. If you don't, it's whatever. Later on, like I don't think it'd be too big of a deal if like we encounter them again. You're like, who are these guys? And I'm like, oh, obviously they're the Autons from season 1, episode 1 of Doctor Who.
Fake fan.
Unbelievable! I'm taking you on this journey and you're not even paying attention. But yeah, I think this is like a sort of monster one-off monster of the week type deal for at least this alien specifically.
That makes sense for a first episode type of deal.
If that's it for like our thoughts on the episode, I can actually I can get into the trivia that I scrounged up.
Yippee!
Yippee! So this is gonna be like sort of a bit of like I guess like a cool down outro of the episode, where I look up the IMDb page for the Doctor Who episode and I go through the trivia and I pick out which ones I think are the most interesting. I've got some interesting things to tell you about this episode, actually.
Okay.
I will say, fair warning, I got these off IMDb. I don't know if there were like sources to these. I assume there were because they got on IMDb, and that's like an official site for stuff. So if any of these are incorrect, I apologize, but they sound true. I mean, I assume
They're true enough.
I assume that like they've got some credence to them if they're on like a movie buff website, where like all the pretentious film majors are like, well, actually, that's not true. I'm sure they'll be there like in a flash to like correct the people on this website, or to correct me. Who knows? But one of the main fun facts I thought was very interesting that apparently. So Russell T Davies, he wrote this episode, but he actually apparently offered Edgar Wright the opportunity to direct this episode.
Oh.
And if you guys don't know Edgar Wright, he was the guy who directed Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim. That's that guy. And apparently he was still working on Shaun of the Dead in 2004, so he was actually a bit busy. Could not direct the episode. I think it would be very interesting in the alternate universe where this episode was directed by him, because I think he has a very interesting eye for campy stuff, like, and cartoony.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like to get I think he has a very good talent at adding cartoonish mannerisms to like live action stuff. I think he does very well at that. So that was like the first like little fun fact. The main fun fact I actually really wanted to tell you about is that apparently, I say this apparently, I'm sure there's like old Doctor Who fans who know about this, but when in the scene where Rose is searching on not Google, the search engine for information on the Doctor, with the website she goes on, the Who is Doctor Who or Who is the Doctor .co.uk or whatever, apparently is a real website. It's quote unquote still functioning. I don't consider it still functioning because if you go to that URL, it just redirects you to like the standard Doctor Who, like, catch it Sunday night on BBC TV or whatever, like the standard Doctor Who page you go when you look up Doctor Who. But at one point while the show was airing, it was actually like updating along with the show, which is basically giving Doctor Who like a sort of like ARG element.
Yeah,
which
that's sick.
I absolutely love. I love I think me and Hailey both love ARGs. Like,
yes, we do. You have more info on them than I do, but I do find them very interesting.
Yeah, I think some of my favorites. I gotta remember them all. I think if Daisy Brown counts as an ARG, I like Daisy Brown. I've heard about like the Cloverfield ARG. There was one I was like really into for a hot second, to a point where I was like playing the game. Like a lot of times when I look up ARGs, I'll like look up people like summarizing it for me, like the YouTube channel Inside a Mind. I really like that YouTube channel. He like explains it like he explains a lot of ARGs very well, in a way that like I can feel like I'm discovering it along with him. But there was one ARG I wanna I can't remember the name, but it was about a missing girl and how she got like kidnapped or something, and it was like, and I guess I don't want to get too like messed up about it because it does get into like some dark stuff. But I remember I actually played the game and I was trying to like find videos and like unlock codes, and I had maybe too good of a time because it got really scary and I couldn't sleep that night. And that was like the first and only time I've played an ARG. I usually am into horror ARGs, but I do still like any sort of like ARG. So I think it's very interesting that Doctor Who, at least for like the first few seasons, had basically an ARG going, if not like a small one. So
yeah, that's really sick.
So like obviously the website isn't like officially up anymore, but it's still, you can still visit it using like the Wayback Machine, and there was an article on it called Have You Seen This Man, which is like a story about it, and it was published on the website 2 days before the episode aired on March 24, 2005 by the BBC web team, and it basically like played along with the show, like pretending, but role-playing as Clive, posting on this, and obviously, like, Clive does not, unfortunately, our King Clive does not run it anymore.
No.
I think it's actually implied that Mickey picked up the website and started running it after, like, Rose left, and he started posting
okay, that's
stuff.
Interesting.
I think we can, like, follow along through it as we watch episodes, because obviously I can't talk about what happens like in later entries as like the show goes on, but I do believe at least like for the first 2 seasons it stays like updated, and I could definitely like check back in on like, because a lot of this information right now I'm getting from the wiki, because it's like it's a bit hard to navigate the website on the Wayback Machine, but people could actually, like real people in like the real world, could actually like submit stories about like, oh yeah, I saw the Doctor the other day and this is where I saw him, and like the moderators of the website, like the BBC or whatever, would like go through these and post whatever was like appropriate to post and like coincided with the canon. Like It literally says on the wiki, like, it had to, like, not be inappropriate and also wouldn't break the fourth wall too much. So only true role players allowed on this website. But yeah, I think that's, like, just, like, a really interesting aspect of, like, Doctor Who. Like, I didn't even know until, like, literally the other night when I was, like, looking at the trivia for this episode, like, how deep this rabbit hole goes. And I just think it's really interesting.
Absolutely, I would love to keep up with it as we go along.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. So another little trivia another little trivia fun fact is that so when Clive shows a picture of the Doctor standing in the crowd during the JFK assassination in 1963, this is actually a bit of a reference to the original Doctor Who series, which was called An Unearthly Child in 1963. So, like, the first Doctor, basically.
Okay.
Which was actually first aired the day after the JFK assassination.
Shut up, that's crazy.
On November 23rd, 1963. So they were like, just a little nod to our pal JFK, God rest his soul. I just think that's so funny that it's like...
It is.
JFK died, and they're like, well, we still got the show. And also, that's in America. That's not our problem. That's not our problem. It's not like our queen died. But that's, like, a little fun fact. I think I already talked about how, like, bit of a contradiction that, like, the Doctor looks at his ears and is like, oh, those are crazy, even though he's been around for at least long enough to witness 3 historic events. Oh, I just thought this was funny. I just thought this was funny. There was a fun fact in the IMDb page that said, like, this episode features the first use of the word gay, and therefore also the first explicit reference to homosexuality in the history of the television series.
Well, we already brought that up.
Yeah, we already covered that. We don't need to talk about that. I mean, it basically says, like, because society was more socially conservative then, there was no reference to it in the original series. Like, no duh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think 1963 Doctor is going to be talking about gay people. And also, I think final fun fact, the production team of Doctor Who was apparently given permission to add even more lights to the London Eye. So when you see the London Eye in Doctor Who, that's actually not what it looks like. It's actually a bit darker in person.
Well, I'm never going on it because I'm scared of heights.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like I might just for the experience, but that's even if I, like, I've never left the country. I've always stayed in America. I've traveled to different states though, which is basically like the equivalent of, like, visiting other countries in Europe. I'm not entirely familiar with, like, the fandom response to the episode at this moment, especially probably because there wasn't much of a fandom at the moment. If there was a fandom, it was probably, like, older people who, like, watched the show in the 60s to 80s. But other than that, do you have, like, any sort of, like, rating you'd give this episode? I don't know if we're gonna do a rating system for the entire podcast show, but that might be a fun thing to do. Like, out of 5 stars, how many would you give this episode, just generally?
Is it okay if I do a rating system of 10?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, I would give it 10 corks in CGI eyeballs. 7 out of 10 of those.
7 out of 10 of those. Let me think. Oh, I gotta think of a funny one. Okay, I would give it, I think I might give it, like, a 6.5 plastic arms attacking you on your face out of 10 plastic arms. I think it's got a lot of decent elements, but there's a lot of, like, just nothing happening sometimes in this episode.
Yeah.
I feel like it probably should be a bit more exciting as a first episode. But that could just be, like, the modern view of me, just like, I need content now in my face. I'm a Gen Z. I have no patience for anything.
I'm an iPad baby. I need constant stimulation.
I need to slap the screen while things happen. But I think I enjoyed when they used practical effects. I think it was a little weird when they used CGI. I didn't like how they focused on that. But I think a lot of the characters got good introductions. You really got a sense of, like, who they were as people. And I appreciate we got to see, like, what Rose's life was like. She's never going back. What Rose's life is like, at least on Earth. And we get the kind of sense of like the kind of situation is in, why she would want to travel with the Doctor.
I guess that wraps up our first, like, for real episode.
For sure. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I'm excited.
Thank you for coming on this journey and starting this exciting journey with us.
Thank you for traveling through time and space with me. I'm very excited to talk about, like, the next episode. I already want to hear your thoughts on the next time on Doctor Who, but we gotta save that for next episode. We gotta save the content. I guess we just gotta say goodbye to you guys. Thank you guys for listening.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching, and tune in next week or whenever we post the episode. I don't know when. Here we go.
In 15 years.
In 1 million years. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to our show. This was created by me, Julia, and Hailey Dorritie. The cover arts and thumbnails were illustrated by the two of us and edited by me. Episodes edited by me, and social media is run by Hailey. The theme song and other sound effects are by half.cool. You can find us on Instagram at me&d Doctor Who, on Twitter at me&dw, and on TikTok at me&d Doctor Who. I believe you can now find us wherever you get your podcasts, at least on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Let us know if you want to find us anywhere else. I think those are the main three right now. Thank you again so much for listening. Bye!